From the Amitabh Bachchans to the Anil Kapoors to everybody who did film shoots and did IFA awards, you feel that they're very good in whichever position they are in, but you are no less. With South African Airways, I truly loved my tenure during the time that I was there for 7 years, because they're not just marketing an airline, but you almost married the destination.
I'm with a lady who, for me, is truly fearless, absolutely forthright, and fabulously bold.
Oh my gosh.
She is a leader in our travel industry who's seen decades with different genres. Interestingly, she started with Air India. She moved on to the GDS system called the Abacus world. She literally was the game changer there. South African Airways was her baby. She grew it to a different level. She moved on to Thomas Cook, and finally, in the world of the beautiful sea, cruising. Today, as she leads her company called Lotus Destinations and Click My Cruise,
Yes.
Nalini Gupta, let's be honest, is a force to be reckoned with. Global Destinations, Pranav and Neelu, I didn't know you know them so well, but they are just in total admiration of your work, Nalini. You all go a long way. And they said, now she has to be a protagonist in this series.
Thank you, Rima.
So, Nalini, when we're going through this beautiful journey called life, what gives you that courage, Nalini, to fight through all odds?
So Rima, actually, before even taking on your question, I truly would like to say that I agreed to this evening to be with you, largely because one is when you talked about my go-getting spirit, I saw the same thing in you. You had the same kind of enthusiasm and spirit of saying, get going. And when you talked about Pranav and Neelu, besides the fact that we worked together in South African Airways, over the period of time, we have actually enjoyed having known each other, and truly I've seen their progress so well, and I always believe that when you work sincerely, you will get positive results. So I'm not surprised that they have kind of taken this initiative to put this product together of women, or rather recognizing women in terms of their success, in terms of their actions, in terms of being who they are. With South African Airways, I truly loved my tenure during the time that I was there for 7 years, because they're not just marketing an airline, but you almost married the destination.
Oh.
So, and that country is really God. When you talk about God's own land, Kerala being God's own land, I just feel that from an international front, that's God's own land. Truly loved my association there with my own team, with people in headquarters. So from the time when I started working with South African in 2000, we had 2 flights per week. And then by the time I left in 2007, it was a daily operation. They gave me an award at that evening when the president was there, and they said, for bringing South Africa to the eyes of the Indian. Wow. So it had moved from the 30th position in 2000 to the 3rd most popular position in India. And when I came home that evening, I remember telling my husband, who has always supported me in my whole career journey, be it doing my MBA during my working years, doing whatever, he just sort of was there supporting me. I kept saying that I wish I could have done something for my own country. The cruising industry started for me when I was talking to Costa about becoming their GSA. One of the reasons that I chose Costa was also because they were the few cruise companies who had gone to new countries. Right. They were the first to go to China, the first to go to Brazil. And I said, when I was negotiating with them, saying, okay, this is what I want, if you want me as a GSA, I said, one of them is to come to India. And I just felt it was, he said, but nobody's come to India. I said, but we should be the first ones. Right. So in 2016, when the Prime Minister had the maritime meet, the Sagarmala project, and I got the chairman of Carnival Corporation, David Dingle, to meet with him, and Nitin Gadkari was the shipping minister. When I spoke to them, along with David Dingle, of course, talked of all the 100 issues, and Nitin Gadkari just told me in Marathi, problem kai tumhe aana karuya. Tumhe aana tumcha ship. And when you see that at the highest level, and then the PM himself nodding, saying, we need ships to come from Gujarat to Odisha, the Sagarmala. When you see it at the highest level, we truly need to reflect that
so
same
encouraged.
energy.
Feel so
We need to feel that energy, and if we don't believe it as citizens of a country, nobody else is going to do it for you. So when Costa said there are issues and how do we manage it, I said it will be managed.
It will.
And I think my career with Air India, with various places that I worked, each company gave me strengths which actually benefited my current business. In Air India, because of the fact that, you know, with the national carrier, you go to DGCA very often to do various elements of flight positionings, and then you go to different countries to look at flying rights into Osaka, into Tokyo. You get comfortable with DGCA terms. And then you said, okay, if I have to go to shipping ministry, I'll go to shipping ministry. If I have to go to finance ministry, I'll go to finance. But what's the problem? Let's figure out the problem.
Yeah.
Rather than say, we are ambiguous, nobody comes to the country. It doesn't work like that.
Oh.
You need to tell them.
Oh.
Mr. Sanjay Malhotra, who's the RBI governor, was that time the Secretary Revenue, and you explain to them they are reasonable people.
Yeah.
And they realize that, okay, there is ambiguity, let's clarify it and get it done. So if you don't tell them, how would they to know?
Wow.
So I think it's not a matter of doing something for the country. We just need to, all of us, do what's best for our country and of ourselves.
As you said, I pushed through the corridors of power not once, not twice. I sat there with files, getting this goal.
I also think maybe I was just plain lucky as well, because after that we had Mr. Sonowalji, who was the shipping minister. He actually continued with that kind of support. And when you see that support, you want to do whatever it takes.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Costa doesn't have small ships now, because in India, the ports, small ships really work well. They don't have, that's why we can't bring ships to India. But there are lots of other cruise companies that I'm knocking the door saying, come to India.
Yeah.
And we all need to do it. Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
the way. You know, I remember the late Mr. Gautam Chadda.
Yes.
You know,
he was among the first.
Absolutely, Nalini. I can't, when you talk cruising, for me, I respect that gentleman.
Yes, he was the
You
first
know,
to start.
And the way we've planned things, you know, your Air India journey, it's so beautiful, Nalini. Every lady in this beautiful series. So our qualifier was ladies who've completed at least 40 years plus of working.
Wow.
Almost 50, and who are still active in business. So look at you all. Just, you all are so admirable. And it's so weird. Irshad Patel, Air India, she had passions for Air India to fly. Hutokshi Marker wanted to do Air
Yes.
India. Rani Bachchani flew Air India.
Yes.
And you worked for Air India. Oh, the Air India story. I think...
So in the 70s, Air India was your national carrier. Of course, the Tatas had left a beautiful legacy of a very well-run airline. There were very few airlines that time. So in a way, it was a monopoly.
Yes.
So I remember after about 5-6 years in Air India, I joined them in 76, yes.
Yeah.
And in about 6-7 years, there was Emirates, there was Gulf Air, everybody coming into the country, and many people moved. And I remember talking to my mother about it and talking to other colleagues about it, saying, you know, maybe they were offering whatever you're getting in Air India. Air India was not the greatest paymaster, but it was a very good learning ground. So I remember when I talked about it, saying that maybe I should just go there. She said, you know, this is your learning curve.
Oh.
And I couldn't agree with her and with other bosses of mine who said, this is your learning curve. Learn as much what you can learn here, you can't possibly learn in any other company.
Awesome.
And it was so true, because in Air India, from sales to marketing to space control to the CRS business that I got into, and what did I do? I just worked really sincerely and hard.
Yeah.
And I think and then I was fortunate with whichever team I worked, they actually emulate what they see their seniors do.
So true.
So it was not 1+1 became 1+, it became 11, a team of 11, because everybody was working that, everybody dreamt the same dream.
And
You know?
we are talking team of 11.
Yes.
I remember the World Cup cricket, Nalini.
Yes.
That was like a game changer story. I just started my world in journalism. I remember the energy of World Cup 2003.
Yes.
I'm not a cricket girl, but I'm figuring this. But I remember the energy.
Yes.
You were full on. The World Cup cricket, South African Airlines, and y'all
Yes.
did, I don't know what, y'all shook up everything, I think, to get this going. Nalini, can you throw some light on that amazing 2003 experience?
So actually, you know, I believe in when the opportunity comes to you, it doesn't stay with you forever. You either take it and run with it, or somebody else takes it and runs with it, no? So if I were to do that, so I remember this so clearly. I was at this meeting in Johannesburg, and when they were doing the presentation, they said, and we are going to be doing having the World Cup starting very soon, and during that time, for the 3 months window, we are expecting this kind of a load factor. We don't need to give you any more deploying any more aircraft, because within what capacity you have, you'll be able to manage it. So I said, what kind of numbers are you expecting? And they said 2,000. And so why 2,000? They said that's what Ali Bakar said, and Ali Bakar was the president of ICC.
Oh.
And Ali Bakar, everybody knew, was quite a force to reckon with.
Sure.
But he's still a human being, no? So I remember them. So there was lunch break, and I just couldn't let go of that thought that 2,000 is too low a number for me. We did that maybe with some film, shows. We had 2,000 people for an IFA at the Sun City. How can we do that for a cruise, for a cricket, which is like a whole season? So I went to his office. I got his address, Summer Place. I said, just took a cab and I went there. I said, I'll come back soon. And I went there, and I think I was shocked to see this Indian woman who just walks in there and says, I said, World Cup 2000, where did you get that number? Oh, in London, the previous one, we did 1,500, so 20% increase, and this is what we're expecting. I said, but 2,000? He said, what do you expect? I said, 10,000. Do you want 10,000?
Oh.
He said, yes. And then I said, how do you do 10,000?
Ali Bakar was like,
I said, 10,000. He said, how? I said, I will get you 10,000, but the only rule, I will call the shots in terms of who gets the tickets. You need to give the ticket rights to people who are hungry for that business.
So true.
You don't have to really give an established booking medium. Give it to somebody who's hungry. Give it to Pyramid, give it to Mayank Khandwala, give it to people like, there was Sachinam, there was Zakir.
I've heard, yeah.
All these people, they were hungry and they understood this business.
Wow.
I said, why can't we give it? No. I said, let's do it, let's distribute it, it'll do well. When I came back, and I went back to the office and told them, what, we are going to have, I need more aircrafts, but I'll come back with a plan. And I came back here, all hell broke loose when they realized they could be the authorized agents for cricket. And then it was actually very, very good. We did 12,000 passengers finally.
Wow.
We did 12,000. And there are so many beautiful stories, because the consulate was not prepared in their minds to have such a big setup for visas.
Wow.
But then I had kind of told them we had Hindustan Lever doing charter flights. We had, and then India was progressing very well. In fact, towards the end, India came into the finals. Mm-hmm. And that's when Air India chose to also have some flights. My husband and lots of people, including Uddhav Thackeray, all of them went on that flight. And this was on a Sunday, the match. So on Thursday night was the last flight which went off for cricket. On Friday, in the evening around 4:30, Murli Dora walks into my office. By then I'm busy wrapping up lots of reports and whatever else. And he says, I am going to, I'd like to go to South Africa, to Joburg, to watch this match. I said, you can go. He's saying, Mukesh ji and Neeta ji are going on their own aircraft on Saturday, but I don't have a visa. And I said, so I don't issue visas. But he says, but somebody told me, if anybody can get it, you can get it.
Absolutely.
And then when they give you so much of confidence, the next thing I rang up Colonel Kumoy, the Consul General, and he was still in the office. I said, Colonel, I need a visa, the last visa so it was his last visa for the cricket match. He said, but everybody is gone home. I said, no, but you're there. And I will come there. I know where the stamps are. You just have to sign it. I know exactly how it has to be done.
No.
So let me come there. He said, no, it doesn't work like this. I said, no, then let's call the person who's doing the visa. Just call him in here, because I have to get it done for him. And it got done at 6:30 in the evening. And the next day in my office, I get this huge basket of flowers, which even couldn't enter my doorway. It was that large. Murli there sent it saying, you're amazing.
See?
In Abacus, I remember by the time I got into the CRS zone, there was Amadeus and Galileo, already successful. They'd got all the big agents. So Thomas Cook, MX, everybody was with them.
Certainly.
And they were giving them free pieces. We were willing to do that as well. But there was everybody was taken. They didn't want more than 1 or 2 CRSs. And then I said, there must be somebody who wants us.
Yeah.
And there was this, and IATA those days was very strong. So if you're not IATA, you don't get a CRS.
Oh.
So I said, who called those? I said, sure. What do you mean by if you're not IATA? And the small little pyramids, your DePaul, all these guys were sincere. Like DePaul was a chartered accountant, but got into the travel industry.
Right.
Look at how they're flourishing now. And thank God I was able to spot on Rajesh Rataria, all of these people. I said, why can't I give it to them? New Jolly, why can't I give it to them?
Oh.
And I think once I gave it to you, need to go to somebody who wants you. Like you don't need to be.
And you said even during the South African movie, that people were hungry for tickets, hungry for business.
And they did so well for me that after about 2 years, Gauri Jairam, who used to be with, that time with Taj, and then she joined us.
Globus and...
Yes, she was after that with Globus and now with Active Holidays. She again was one of these very energetic marketing guys. We said, why don't we do our first CRS conference? And we were rewarding all these non-IATAs. Who cares? We'll honor you because you're great. Then with South African, of course, it was another mind-blowing experience from understanding a destination, from the film industry. From the Amitabh Bachchans to the Anil Kapoors to everybody who did film shoots and did IFA awards. You feel that they're very good in whichever position they are in, but you are no less.
Yeah.
You're no less. Very happy, Kareena Kapoor, very happy, but I am no less. So I just genuinely felt that it allowed me to be that way, but I didn't allow that success I didn't take it too seriously. And I don't take my failures or success very seriously. So, but that journey was with a lot of film industry people. There was the cricketers, Sachin Tendulkar, when he was playing for the World Cup. In between, he sent a message to his wife Anjali saying, "I need another bat." And he said, "Please send it. Tell Nalini Gupta she'll arrange for it to come to me." And of course, there was somebody. She reached out to me, and there was so I had to find somebody responsible. So Anil Parashar was that time the head of finance and Interglobe, and now I think he's head of Galileo and other places. So when I gave it to him, he says, "I will sleep with it. It's such an important possession of mine. I'll carry it with me. The only provision is, will he come and collect it from me personally?" And again, Sachin Tendulkar being the warm, simple person he is. So I sent him a WhatsApp. At that time there was SMS. I remember sending him that message saying, "Please collect it from Anil Parashar. They're staying in the same hotel." He so sweetly not only went down to meet him, but he took a couple of the other cricketers with him. So to this day, when Anil Parashar sees me, he says, "You made me feel like a celebrity." South African wouldn't have happened if Rahul Bhatia had not offered me this job.
Oof.
He once just called me someday, one of the days in 2000, and said, "Would you like to come back to the airline industry?" And I said, "Which one?" And he said, "South African." But I said, "You're a GSA for it." But he said, "No, I'm going to give you a general manager position." I said, "Isn't there already a general manager?" He said, "No, we're going to look at replacing. And I'm looking at a route partnership for this particular venture. So, I'm heavily invested in it." So, of course, South Africa at that time was, you didn't have the best of reputation. You felt you either got raped or robbed or both. Mm-hmm. So I said, first, let me just go and see the place. Mm-hmm. So, of course, you should go and do that. My first visit itself, within the second or third day, I said, "This is it. I want to market this destination." Yeah. When I came back, when I talked about it, he very broadly said, "I'm looking at it becoming a daily operation. So you do what you have to do. These are the guidelines. You do whatever you will, and we'll meet once in 6 months and 1 year, and you truly have all of my permissions within these guidelines to do what you do." And Ashok Fen, who's the CEO, will help you in this process. For me, Ashok Fen was a really godsend. Because it's not that we didn't have challenges. We had lots of challenges, but he was just a phone call away. He was just a flight away. So I just say, "This is where I'm hassled." And he would just say, "It's okay, let's walk through this entire thing." He was almost a mentor to me. And I think one was fortunate to do that, because I feel my success in my career today is also because of the kind of learnings and the kind of experience I had with those interactions. And you just could not just say whatever and get away. People like Rahul Bhatia would often say, "God is in the details. Give me the nitty-gritty. Give me the details." and you're dealing with people who truly watching you and can make out whether you are on the right track or no.
Wow.
Within a minute or two, they can tell you you're not on the right track. So I felt that with people, those kind of interactions,
Yes.
you not only learn, but you get the confidence, because whatever steps you have taken, you have had strong backing, and you have come out smelling roses. And they both have never had, they've been most gracious and generous in their praise, and telling me that if there's anything to be fixed, go to Nalini Gupta and she'll figure it out. So there was Richard Branson who came to India. I was running South African Airways, but I was also doubling up as a vice president for Interglobe. So when Richard Branson came in and he said they want to have this big party in the evening because he wants to meet the who's who of the country. And so of course, because of my connection with the glamour world, I called all of them, and all of them required me in some form because there was a lot of film shoots happening. They came in, everybody, as long as you're of use to people, they will always show up, and that's reality of life, and that's how it works, and it's okay. It's perfectly okay if it doesn't happen now, because that's how life is, no? So of course we had this great turnout of everybody, and Richard Branson comes and tells me, "How come you know so many people?" And I just looked at him saying, I don't know most people here, and it's a happy coincidence that they are celebrities, but they're good human beings like all of us. But so Richard Branson, in the short interaction that we had with him, he came through as somebody who's a celebrity in his own right, but so grounded.
Very grounded.
So you learn from people like that.
I've seen you evolve, I've seen you interact, and I think every day has been, I think, strengthening for you.
But I think the strength also comes from the family.
Yes, I totally agree.
My family, be it my children, be it my husband, they just let me fly. Let me live my dreams.
That is it.
And that makes a big difference, because I didn't come back thinking, oh God, I'm feeling guilty about this. Don't feel guilty, just get going. So once when I was telling my son, I should not be at home so many evenings. So Gaurav said, thank God, because we would have not been able to do that. We won't have been children doing the things we wanted to do. I was lucky with my mother-in-law and father-in-law as well.
too, yeah.
Fortunately, I got them as my dowry in that sense, because when my husband being the only child, when they retired, they just came and they were part of the family, and they helped me to look after the kids. And there were lots of things, like for instance, there is equivalent of a Karwa Chauth even in UP, where they do something called Artalika. And the first time I did it, I was really, where you don't eat the whole day, and I was not, my mother just said it doesn't work, it's okay. Oh. It's all right, you just don't have to do it. Sweet. It's all right. And I felt it was really nice. Or for that matter, they were very conservative, but for me, they said, you're working, so it's okay.
How sweet.
Just go. Or if you have to go on an assignment, just go, we'll look after the kids.
Same stuff.
And it makes a big difference.
Today, as a mother, and most importantly as a grandmother, Nalini, I keep seeing you talking about your little grandchild. What is that one vision you want to tell her fiercely, which maybe it's going on from your mom to you to your beautiful daughter, and your son's, child? What do you want to tell that alpha generation there?
I say this to my daughter-in-law also, and I say this even to all the girls in the family, to just say that you have this one life. Live it well, live it honestly, and just enjoy it, because we keep postponing joys for yourself. You keep saying, I'll do it another time. You get some money, you save it because for the another day. You don't do anything much for yourself, because you just feel it's for the family. So I always tell them, don't do that. Keep some part for yourself.
So you're
just
telling
enjoy.
Every woman to have self-care.
Yes.
Something for yourself.
Yes. So I look after myself by making sure I do my walks, my swimming, I take care of my health. But sometimes you just need to just do some crazy things for yourself. And it is okay.
Once again, I want to genuinely dil se say, Pranav and Nilu, I've had a wonderful conversation, literally, because they said they love you.
I know, and so do I, They are lovely people.
Yeah,
so are you.
Glad we did this. Yay, and on her sea-facing beautiful home in South Bombay.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much, Rima Lokesh. I am honored, privileged to do this on a very, very special series.